Flight Safety Tips. Welcome to the DJI Flight Safety Tips tutorial animation. This animation covers the content shown on the screen. Local laws and regulations. Before you start using an aircraft, make sure to check the local laws and regulatory requirements. Strictly comply with these laws and requirements during flight, and be responsible for your own safety, as well as the safety of your aircraft and others while flying. You can visit the DJI official website and click Fly Safe to enter the DJI Fly Safe page, from where you'll be able to access the airspace management policy websites of different countries and regions to check the local laws and regulations. Preparations before going out for a flight. Before going out for a flight, check and make sure there is enough battery power for both the aircraft and the remote controller, and update the firmware and fly safe data to the latest versions. First, turn on the aircraft and the remote controller, and after they are successfully connected, swipe down from the top of the remote controller screen to open the quick settings page, then press and hold the Wi-Fi icon to enter the Wi-Fi settings page, and then connect the remote controller to Wi-Fi. From the About tab of DJI Fly System Settings, tap Check for updates. Make sure to use the latest firmware and fly-safe data, as the fly-safe data may not be able to cover the temporarily closed parks or streets. We recommend you get more information on your planned flying spot in advance. Check and make sure that all the related accessories and the microSD card are packed. Flight environment. Besides abiding by local laws and regulations and paying attention to geo zones, you also need to take the following requirements into consideration when choosing the flight environment. Fly in an open space that is away from crowds. Fly within the allowable altitude range of the aircraft. Note that if flying at high altitudes, due to thin air, both the aircraft propulsion and the battery life will decrease, and the braking distance will increase. Do not use the aircraft in severe weather conditions including strong winds, snow, rain, and fog. Do not use the aircraft at the scene of natural disasters, such as a fire, flood, typhoon, or earthquake. Do not fly the aircraft in environments where the temperature is below -10 degrees Celsius or above 40 degrees Celsius. When flying in low-temperature environments, hover after takeoff to warm up the battery. To check the real-time temperature of the battery, enter the system settings of DJI Fly, and then tap Battery Information in the Safety tab. Fly when the battery temperature reaches 10 degrees Celsius or above. Do not operate the aircraft in an environment where there is risk of a fire or explosion. Preparations before takeoff. Good flight habits are crucial to flight safety. Check the following items before each flight. Check the propellers, make sure they are not aged, broken, or deformed, and the clockwise (CW) and counterclockwise (CCW) propellers are correctly installed. Check the battery level and make sure there is enough battery power. Check and make sure the microSD card has been installed. Unfold the remote controller antennas. Make sure the flight mode switch is toggled to normal mode. Make sure there are no non-DJI accessories or payloads installed on the aircraft, as this may affect flight safety. After powering on, set the obstacle avoidance action in the Safety tab of DJI Fly. It is strongly recommended to check and make sure that the obstacle avoidance action is set to bypass or brake before each flight. Set RTH altitude to be higher than the highest obstacle around. Set max altitude and max distance for flight protection. Make sure the compass and IMU sensor states are normal. Set signal lost action in advanced safety settings. The RTH option is strongly recommended. Go to the control page and make sure the control stick mode is your preferred one. Try to avoid taking off from a place where GNSS signal is weak, such as indoors, from a balcony, or around buildings. Do not take off from moving objects, such as ships or cars. Do not take off from sandy ground, such as on a beach, as sand may enter the motors. Make sure the GNSS signal is strong when taking off. Wait for the GNSS signal icon to turn white and for DJI Fly to issue a voice prompt that the home point has been updated before taking off. Flight safety tips. Vision systems and obstacle sensing. During flight, the vision systems only work in certain scenarios and cannot replace human control and judgment. Do not overly rely on the obstacle sensing function. The vision systems cannot accurately identify large structures with frames and cables, such as tower cranes, high-voltage transmission towers, high-voltage transmission lines, oblique cables, and thin objects. The vision systems cannot work properly in the following situations: flying near surfaces such as mirrors, glass, ice, water, and other highly reflective or transparent surfaces, or surfaces that strongly reflect or absorb infrared waves. Flying near monochrome surfaces. Flying near surfaces without clear patterns or textures. Flying near surfaces with repeating identical patterns or textures. Flying near surfaces of moving objects. Flying in environments where the lighting is too weak, too strong, or changing drastically. Do not fly too fast in these mentioned situations. Do not over-rely on the height data shown in DJI Fly. Keep the aircraft in sight during flight. Always pay attention to the surrounding environment and the warnings in DJI Fly. Maintain control of the aircraft at all times and be responsible for flight safety. Keep away from crowds or public places where crowds gather to avoid accidents or injury to people. Flight safety tips. Positioning. Keep away from tall buildings. Tall buildings and large metal structures may affect the accuracy of the onboard compass and GNSS system. The aircraft may become unable to position itself correctly or even start drifting. If flight in such scenarios is necessary, make sure to keep the aircraft at least 10 meters away from the buildings. Sudden loss of GNSS signal directly affects the positioning and hovering of the aircraft. The aircraft may enter attitude mode and start drifting or even crash. Therefore, try to avoid flying among buildings, under bridges, or through any caves. If the aircraft has entered attitude mode, stay calm and land in an open area. During landing, move the control stick slightly to make sure the aircraft does not drift away from the intended landing point, or manually control the aircraft to fly back to the takeoff point. Flight safety tips. Video transmission signal. Make sure there are no obstructions between the aircraft and the remote controller during flight. Avoid the video transmission signal getting blocked or interfered with by buildings, forests, high-voltage power lines, mobile phone base stations, and radio transmission towers. Especially when flying in complex urban environments, keep the aircraft in the visual line of sight, keep a safe distance from buildings, and fly with caution. There will also be prompts in the upper left-hand corner of DJI Fly when the video transmission signal gets interfered with or blocked. The prompt aircraft signal interference indicates that there is strong signal interference at the aircraft location. It is recommended to fly away from that position immediately. The prompt remote controller signal interference indicates that there is strong signal interference at the remote controller location. In this case, pay close attention to your surrounding environment, keep away from crowds, or turn off the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth of other mobile devices nearby. When a prompt appears saying that the video transmission signal or remote controller signal is blocked or weak, position the remote controller to face the aircraft and adjust the antennas for optimal signal strength, or fly at higher altitudes. The video transmission signal icon in DJI Fly indicates the signal strength. When the icon is white and has full bars, the signal is good. If the icon turns yellow or red, signal is weak or lost. In this case, you will need to adjust the orientation of the remote controller. Check the remote controller orientation via the attitude indicator. When the little arrow next to the round remote controller icon points right toward the aircraft icon, the remote controller orientation is correct. Meanwhile, adjust the remote controller antennas to face toward the aircraft, ensuring the aircraft is within optimal transmission range. Wait and see whether the video transmission icon turns white after adjustment. If the icon stays red, it is recommended to activate Smart RTH or manually control the aircraft to fly back to the takeoff point for safe landing. Flight safety tips. Return to home. If your position has changed during the flight, it is recommended to update the home point to the current position of remote controller. If a low battery warning appears, return home as soon as possible or land in a suitable area to avoid harm or damage. Pay attention to strong wind at high altitudes. If you keep encountering warning prompts of strong wind, lower the flight altitude, or return to home as soon as possible. If the live view is stuck, or the connection is lost, or the video transmission signal has 0 bars or is completely lost, do not move the control sticks recklessly at this time. Otherwise, the aircraft may crash or accidents may happen. It is recommended to activate RTH as soon as possible. When the prompt aircraft not connected to RC appears, the aircraft will execute the signal lost action you set before takeoff. If set to RTH, the aircraft will enter failsafe RTH. During failsafe RTH, the aircraft will continue returning to home even if the signal is restored. At this time, you can press the RTH button or tap the red icon on the left side of the camera view to cancel RTH. If set to hover, the aircraft will hover in place. In this case, move toward the aircraft as quickly as possible until the connection between the aircraft and the remote controller is restored automatically. If set to descend, the aircraft will land automatically. You can go to the support page of the DJI official website to search and browse for the information you need, or contact our customer service through the Contact Us window on the bottom of the page to get more help. For more information on flight safety, visit the DJI FlySafe page.